How specialized mushroom log cultivation generates 5 figures monthly on shaded forest land. The result: first transformation. Most people see a dark, useless forest, but I see a 5-figure monthly revenue stream hidden in the shadows. By transforming 500 dormant white oak logs into a high-margin fungal factory, we've unlocked a way to harvest premium shiitakes year-round. This is how we turn shade into consistent gold. If you're serious about turning unused land into a real income stream, hit subscribe now, because in this video, I'm breaking down exactly how this business works, what it actually costs, how long it really takes to profit, and the step-by-step system you can copy. Let's get into it. Introduction. Why forest land isn't dormant? It's undervalued every year. Thousands of acres of shaded woodland sit completely unused. Landowners see shade as a limitation. Too dark for crops, too damp for livestock, too useless to farm. But that same shade, that same moisture, that same quiet forest floor is exactly what a completely different category of agriculture needs to thrive. Mushroom log cultivation. This isn't a gimmick or a get-rich-quick scheme. Log-grown shiitake, lion's mane, and oyster mushrooms are a real centuries-old cultivation method, practiced commercially in Japan, China, Korea, and increasingly across North America and Europe. What's changed in the last decade isn't the technique, it's the market. Restaurants, health-conscious consumers, and specialty grocers are now paying premium prices for fresh, log-grown gourmet mushrooms that taste and perform completely differently from the mass-produced sawdust block mushrooms sold in most supermarkets. In this breakdown, I'm going to walk you through the entire business. From choosing your species and setting up your first logs, all the way to building a sales pipeline that can realistically scale toward 5-figure monthly revenue. I'll also be straight with you about the timeline, because this is not a fast business. It's a patient one, but patience here compounds into something genuinely valuable. Part 1. Understanding the business model 1.1. What you're actually selling at its core. This business has 3 possible revenue streams, and most successful operations eventually run all 3. 1. Fresh mushroom sales, the bread and butter. Shiitake, lion's mane, and oyster mushrooms sold to restaurants, farmers markets, and specialty grocers. Point 2. Value-added products, dried mushrooms, mushroom powders, tinctures, and extracts. These have a longer shelf life and significantly higher margins per pound. Point 3. Inputs and education, selling inoculated logs, spawn plugs, or starter kits to hobbyists, plus workshops or consulting for people who want to replicate your setup. The first stream is what most people start with. The second and third are what actually push monthly revenue into serious territory, because fresh mushrooms alone, sold at a farmer's market, cap out fairly quickly based on how much a single grower can physically harvest and sell per week, say 1.2. Why shade is an asset, not a limitation. Mushrooms don't photosynthesize. They don't need sunlight, they need moisture, stable cool temperatures, and organic material to break down. A dense hardwood canopy does something incredibly useful. It regulates humidity, blocks direct sun that would dry out your logs, and keeps ambient temperatures more stable across seasons. Land that's unusable for row crops or livestock grazing is often close to ideal for a shiitake or lion's mane operation. This is the entire premise behind the shade to gold pitch, and while the framing is marketing language, the underlying agricultural logic is legitimate. Forest floor microclimates genuinely do support log cultivation better than open, sun-exposed land. Part 2. Choosing your mushroom species. Not all mushrooms are equal in terms of speed, price, and market demand. Here's how the 3 most common log-grown species stack up. Say 2.1 shiitake, Lentinula idodes, best wood, oak, especially white oak and red oak. Also works on hornbeam, ironwood, and sweet gum. Asterisk time to first flush, 6 to 18 months after inoculation, depending on log size and climate. Asterisk productive lifespan, 3–5 years per log, with multiple flushes per year once established. Asterisk market price, roughly $8.15 per pound fresh, higher for dried or specialty grades. Asterisk why it's the industry standard. Shiitake has the longest track record in log cultivation, the most predictable yield data, and the strongest existing demand from restaurants and grocers who already know the product. Say 2.2 Lion's Mane, Hericium arenaceus. Asterisk best wood, oak, maple, beech. Asterisk time to first flush. Asterisk often faster than Shiitake, sometimes within 6–12 months. Asterisk market price, frequently commands a premium, 15 to 20+ per pound, due to its novelty and popularity in the health and wellness space. It's often marketed for cognitive benefits, which drives demand from a different, often higher-spending customer base. Asterisk consideration. Asterisk more delicate to harvest and transport than Shiitake, so it works best if you have short, direct supply chains, like a nearby restaurant or farmer's market rather than long-distance shipping. Say 2. 3 oyster mushrooms, Pleurotus species, extremely versatile, poplar, willow, maple, and many others. Asterisk time to first flush, fastest of the 3, sometimes within a few months on fresh logs. Asterisk market price, lower than Shiitake or lion's mane, typically 6–10 per pound, because oyster mushrooms are also commonly produced indoors on sawdust blocks at industrial scale, which keeps prices more competitive. Ask why growers use it. Oysters are a great way to generate early cash flow while you wait for slower-growing Shiitake logs to mature. 2. 4A smart diversification strategy. Most experienced growers don't put all their logs into one species. A common structure looks like this: 50% Shiitake, the long-term, reliable backbone of the business; 25% lion's mane, the premium, high-margin product; 25% oyster mushrooms, fast cash flow while other logs mature. This staggers your harvest timeline and gives you products to sell at every stage of the business, rather than waiting over a year with zero revenue. Part 3. Setting up your log cultivation operation. 3.1 Sourcing the right logs. Timing matters enormously here. You want freshly cut hardwood, ideally harvested within 1 to 4 weeks before inoculation. Why? Because the log still holds the sugars and moisture the fungus needs to establish itself, and it hasn't yet been colonized by competing wild fungi or bacteria that would outcompete your spawn. Ideal log specifications. Asterisk diameter, 3–6 inches. Larger logs hold more moisture and produce longer, but are heavier to handle. Asterisk length, 3–4 feet. Asterisk bark, intact, undamaged bark is important. It helps retain moisture and protects the log from contamination. 3.2 Inoculation. Getting the spawn into the wood. There are 2 primary inoculation methods. Plug spawn, wooden dowels pre-colonized with mushroom mycelium, inserted into drilled holes and sealed with wax. Slower to colonize but cheaper and easier for beginners. Sawdust spawn, a mycelium-colonized sawdust mixture packed into drilled holes. Colonizes faster than plug spawn, but requires slightly more skill and specialized tools and inoculation gun to apply efficiently at scale. The general process. 1. Drill holes in a diamond pattern across the log, spaced roughly 6 to 8 inches apart. 2. Insert spawn into each hole. 3. Seal each hole with cheese wax or a similar breathable wax to lock in moisture and block contaminants. 4. Label each log with species and inoculation date. This matters enormously once you're managing hundreds of logs. Say 3.3. The incubation period. This is the waiting game, and it's the part most get-rich-quick content conveniently skips over. After inoculation, logs need to sit in a shaded, humid area, ideally stacked in a crib or lean-to formation under forest canopy, while the mycelium spreads through the wood during this period. Logs need periodic soaking or rainfall exposure to maintain moisture. Temperature and humidity should stay relatively stable. This is where your forest shade does the heavy lifting for free. You're not harvesting anything yet. This phase can run anywhere from 6 months Oyster to over a year. Shiitake, say 3.4 fruiting, and harvesting once the mycelium has fully colonized the log, it's ready to fruit. For shiitake, this is often triggered or encouraged by force-soaking the log in cold water for 24 hours, which shocks it into fruiting. A technique many commercial growers use to control timing and stagger harvests so they're not overwhelmed all at once, or so they can hit specific market windows, like restaurant orders for a weekend menu. A single well-managed log will continue to produce flushes for 3 to 5 years, meaning your 500 logs aren't a one-time harvest. They're a renewable, multi-year asset once established. Part 4. The real numbers. What 500 logs actually produce this is where I want to be very direct with you, because a lot of content in this space inflates expectations. A mature, well-managed shiitake log typically produces somewhere in the range of 1 to 2 pounds of mushrooms per year, spread across 2 to 3 flush cycles. Not continuously, mushrooms fruit in waves, usually triggered by temperature or moisture changes, scaled to 500 logs, realistic annual yield, roughly 500 to 1,000 pounds of shiitake per year once logs are fully mature, year 2 or 3 onward. At $10 lb average wholesale price, that's approximately $5,000–$10,000 per year from shiitake alone at that log count, not as something important. That's an annual figure, not monthly. For a 500 log operation to hit 5-figure monthly revenue, you'd typically need one or more of the following. A much larger log count, often 2.00+ logs in active rotation. A diversified product mix including value-added items like dried mushrooms and extracts, which sell at a significant markup over fresh weight. Direct wholesale contracts with restaurants or grocers that guarantee consistent purchase volume. Additional revenue from selling inoculated logs, spawn, or workshops to other growers. This doesn't mean the 5-figure monthly claim is impossible. Established operations with several years of log stock, strong distribution relationships, and value-added product lines genuinely do reach that level. It means it's a multi-year build, not a first-season outcome. Part 5. Building your sales channels. 5. 1. Farmers markets. The classic entry point. Farmers markets let you sell directly to consumers at full retail price with no middleman cut. The trade-off is your time. You're trading weekend hours for direct sales, and volume is capped by foot traffic. Say 5.2. Restaurant accounts. This is where serious log growers build real recurring revenue. Chefs specifically seek out log-grown gourmet mushrooms because the flavor and texture genuinely differ from mass-produced sawdust block mushrooms. A handful of steady restaurant accounts, each ordering weekly, can create predictable cash flow that farmers markets alone can't match. Building these relationships takes legwork. Sample drops, consistent quality, and reliable delivery schedules. But once established, restaurant accounts tend to be sticky. Chefs don't want to switch suppliers once they've built a dish around your product. C5. 3. Specialty grocers and co-ops. Local health food stores and co-ops are often eager to stock fresh, locally grown gourmet mushrooms, especially lion's mane given its popularity in the wellness space. Margins here are typically lower than direct sales. The store takes a cut, but volume and consistency of orders can be higher. Save 5.4. Online and value-added sales. Dried mushrooms, mushroom powders, and simple culinary products like shiitake seasoning blends extend your shelf life and let you sell beyond your local radius. This is also where margins improve significantly. A pound of dried shiitake represents roughly 8 to 10 pounds of fresh product concentrated into something lightweight, shippable, and higher priced per ounce, say 5. 5. Teaching what you know. Once you have a functioning operation, there's real demand from other landowners who want to replicate it. Workshops, log inoculation kits, and consulting can become a meaningful secondary income stream, and it's often the piece that pushes monthly revenue from steady but modest into genuinely five-figure territory, because it monetizes your knowledge, not just your physical harvest. Part 6. Costs and Realistic Timeline. 6.1 Startup Costs. Approximate for a 500-log operation. Logs, if not sourced from your own land. Variable, often low cost or free if you're thinning your own woodlot spawn, plug, or sawdust. A meaningful per log cost, multiplied across 500 logs, drill, bits, wax applicator. A modest one-time equipment investment labor. Your own time or hired help for drilling and inoculating. Significant, especially at scale, soaking, watering infrastructure. Tanks or access to a water source for force fruiting. 6.2. Timeline to profitability. Asterisk months 1 to 6. Setup, inoculation, incubation. No revenue. Asterisk months 6-18. First flushes begin, especially for faster species like oyster mushrooms. Revenue starts but modestly. Asterisk year 2-3. Shiitake logs reach full production. This is typically when the operation starts approaching consistent, meaningful monthly income. Asterisk year 3. With log stock at full maturity, diversified products, and established sales channels, this is realistically when five-figure monthly revenue becomes achievable for an operation that has scaled well beyond the initial 500 logs and built strong distribution. The honest takeaway: this is a business built through patient compounding, not a fast flip. But because logs keep producing for years once established, and because you can keep adding new logs each season, the operation becomes genuinely self-sustaining and scalable over time. Conclusion: shade as an asset, not a limitation. The forest floor that looks dark and useless to most landowners is actually a specialized agricultural asset hiding in plain sight. Mushroom log cultivation turns shaded, low-utility land into a productive multi-year revenue stream, one that rewards patience, consistency, and smart diversification across species and sales channels. It's not an overnight five-figure windfall. It's a real business, built log by log, season by season, that can genuinely scale into serious income once the foundation is in place. If you found this breakdown useful, subscribe for more deep dives into land-based businesses like this one, and drop a comment letting me know if you'd want a full walkthrough of the inoculation process next. LSAT 1 SAML idea. You don't need 500 logs to start a mushroom business. You need 50 and 6 months. Here's the exact small batch system that turns a shaded backyard into your first real harvest without the massive upfront risk everyone else is telling you to take. CTA. If you want the full breakdown of scaling this from 50 logs to 500, subscribe now, because this channel is where I document every real number, every mistake, and every dollar. The founder's batch strategy. Most people quit this business before it starts because they try to do too much, too fast. 500 logs sounds impressive in a headline, but it also means a massive upfront cost, months of labor, and zero income while you wait for your first harvest. That's why smart growers start with what I call the founder's batch. 50 logs, 3 species, 1 clear goal. Proof that this works before you scale it: the mix 30 logs of oyster mushrooms. These are your fast movers. Some of the quickest fruiting mushrooms you can grow on wood, often producing within a few months. They give you real cash flow while everything else is still incubating. 15 logs of shiitake. This is your long-term engine. Slower to start, but each log keeps producing for years once it matures. This is the backbone you're building toward. 5 logs of lion's mane. Small quantity, but high price per pound. This is your margin booster, the product that turns a modest harvest into meaningful revenue per sale. Why 50 works. 50 logs is small enough to manage alone in a weekend with basic tools: a drill, spawn, and wax. It's small enough that even if something goes wrong, contamination or a bad batch, you haven't lost a serious investment. But it's large enough to actually test your local market. Can you sell to a farmer's market stall? Will one local restaurant take your oysters weekly? Does anyone locally even know what lion's mane is? The real timeline: month 1. Inoculate all 50 logs. Stack them in shade. Start soaking routine. Month 3 to 6. First oyster flushes appear. This is your first real sale and your first real market feedback. Month 8 to 12. Shiitake logs begin fruiting. Now you have your reliable, repeatable product. Year 2. Lion's mane and shiitake are both producing consistently, and you already know exactly who's buying. The scale-up decision: by month 12, you'll know 3 things you couldn't know on paper: which species sells fastest in your area, which sales channel actually pays best, market, restaurant, or grocer, and whether you personally have the time and appetite to manage this at a bigger scale. That's when scaling from 50 logs to 500 stops being a guess and starts being a calculated, data-backed decision. Start small. Prove it works. Then go big with confidence, not hope.